we're in a new phase. And in this phase, there's still a desire to not let things get out of control. I mean, that's the desire on all members of the resistance to do this slowly. We still see that Hezbollah are not using, they're still using rockets and sort of drones and things. They haven't used their big, very accurate long-range and medium-range missiles, which they could do. So Iran has not used it directly against the infrastructure of Israel, although that might be the next step that's going to happen. But the Houthis have said they're going to really escalate the war by taking much firmer action and widening the level of interception and intervention to prevent vessels moving towards Israel, and perhaps even to end the sort of land corridor, to undermine the rat route that is run by UAE through to Israel over land in trucks, which still continues. So maybe something like that will come under a greater effect. Eilat port has already had to file for bankruptcy because it has no business any longer. And as you'll have seen, and this recent drone attack underlines it, this barracks, Binyamin Barracks, is just south of Haifa. And Haifa have been under continual rocket fire from Lebanon, from Hezbollah. Every day, 100, 200 missiles landing in Haifa.
Alastair Crooke paints a vivid picture of a new phase in the Middle East conflict, a phase marked by restraint, but with powerful undercurrents of potential escalation. Each player in the resistance axis, from Hezbollah to Iran to the Houthis, seems poised for more significant moves, yet they are holding back, for now, to avoid tipping the conflict into uncontrolled warfare. This approach is strategic, but the situation remains tense, with the possibility of rapid intensification if certain red lines are crossed. Hezbollah's current strategy is one of measured escalation. They have chosen not to deploy their most accurate long-range missiles, even though they have the capacity. Instead, they have focused on using shorter-range rockets and drones, delivering hundreds of strikes daily against targets like Haifa. By choosing to operate within these limits, Hezbollah aims to demonstrate its capabilities and test Israel's defenses without initiating a full-scale war. This restraint is significant. It signals that Hezbollah wants to keep the pressure on Israel while maintaining an element of control. Hezbollah's daily rocket fire into Haifa underscores the ongoing threat, but also suggests they are holding back their most potent weapons as a form of leverage. This calibrated approach allows them to influence the battlefield dynamics without triggering a response that could escalate the conflict beyond their control. Iran, as Crooke points out, has yet to involve itself directly in striking Israeli infrastructure, though it may be prepared to do so if provoked. Iran's indirect support of resistance forces, like Hezbollah, allows it to exert influence without drawing itself into an open confrontation. Tehran is well aware that its entry into the conflict would dramatically shift the stakes, potentially pulling the U.S. or other regional actors more directly into the fray. Iran's strategy involves a calculated waiting game, allowing Hezbollah and the Houthis to pressure Israel indirectly. This method keeps Iran's military power in reserve while subtly signaling that its restraint has limits. Should Israel take further aggressive action directly, Iran could retaliate, potentially targeting critical infrastructure, which would widen the conflict considerably. Iran is currently preparing major retaliatory strike from Iraq within days, according to Israel intel. The Houthis have openly stated their intent to escalate their efforts. Positioned in Yemen, they have a unique geographic advantage to target shipping lanes and disrupt supply chains moving towards Israel. This focus on interception and interdiction could have profound implications for Israel's access to resources and support from allies. By disrupting maritime and overland supply routes, the Houthis are effectively widening the theater of resistance, creating a broader network of operational threats that Israel must address. If the Houthis escalate their actions, this could force Israel and its allies to allocate additional resources to secure supply chains, adding strain to an already tense situation. This increased engagement by the Houthis could significantly impact Israel's logistics and supply lines, especially if they target critical maritime choke points like the Red Sea or Gulf of Aden. The economic repercussions of the resistance's actions are already visible. Crooke notes that the port of Aqaba, a crucial logistical hub, has filed for bankruptcy, likely due to disrupted trade flows and declining business. This economic consequence exemplifies how sustained conflict in the region can weaken key infrastructure and destabilize economies, impacting not only Israel but its neighbors as well. The collapse of economic hubs like Aqaba adds a new dimension to the conflict. With trade routes disrupted and ports struggling, Israel faces mounting logistical and economic pressures. This shift could drive Israel's leadership to reconsider its approach or, alternatively, harden their resolve to intensify military action to stabilize the region and secure its trade interests. While Hezbollah, Iran, and the Houthis are exercising restraint, the situation remains precarious. Crooke hints at possible escalation points, events that could rapidly push the region into a more extensive conflict. For instance, if Israel were to launch a large-scale offensive against Hezbollah in Lebanon, it could provoke an immediate response from Iran, shifting the dynamics overnight. Similarly, if the Houthis were to successfully block key supply routes, Israel might be forced to respond, which could widen the conflict zone. The introduction of more advanced weaponry by Hezbollah or a direct Iranian attack on Israeli infrastructure would almost certainly draw in international powers, including the United States and possibly NATO allies. Such involvement could lead to a multi-front war with unpredictable and potentially catastrophic outcomes. Haifa, one of Israel's major cities, has become a focal point in this ongoing tension. Hezbollah's daily barrage of 100 to 200 rockets into Haifa serves as a stark reminder of the proximity and immediacy of the threat. The symbolic and strategic importance of Haifa makes it an attractive target for Hezbollah. For Israel, defending Haifa is not only a matter of protecting its citizens, but also of maintaining morale and demonstrating resilience. The continuous attacks on Haifa reveal the effectiveness of Hezbollah's asymmetric warfare strategy. Rather than risking direct confrontation with Israel's military might, Hezbollah's tactics focus on attrition, aiming to wear down Israeli defenses and create psychological pressure on the population. This strategy allows Hezbollah to remain a persistent thorn in Israel's side, drawing attention to their cause while avoiding a direct, large-scale military conflict. A critical question emerges from Crooke's analysis. How long will this restraint hold? As tensions escalate, the pressure to act increases for all sides involved. Hezbollah's limited use of its arsenal suggests they are waiting for a specific trigger or provocation. Likewise, Iran's decision to refrain from direct involvement shows a measured approach, but this could shift if the conflict reaches a tipping point. For Israel, the decision to escalate or contain the conflict is equally pressing. Further provocations against Hezbollah or Iranian-backed forces risk a direct response, but allowing Hezbollah's strikes to continue without a more decisive reaction could be seen as a sign of weakness. Israel's leadership must carefully balance the need to demonstrate strength with the risks of pulling the region into a wider war. If any of these groups, Hezbollah, Iran, or the Houthis, decide to break the current phase of restraint, the Middle East could face unprecedented instability. Neighboring countries, from Jordan to Saudi Arabia, could be drawn into the conflict either through economic fallout or direct involvement. This situation would also have global repercussions, affecting everything from oil prices to international trade routes. The broader geopolitical implications are significant. The Middle East is a central point of interest for many global powers, including the United States, Russia, and China. A larger regional conflict could easily draw these countries into a prolonged and complex engagement, with consequences reaching far beyond the immediate region. The ripple effects on global security, economy, and energy supply chains would likely be profound and far-reaching. As Crooke emphasizes, we are indeed in a new phase of the conflict, marked by strategic restraint, but simmering with potential for explosive escalation. Each player in the resistance axis has shown that they are prepared for more decisive action, but they are, for now, holding back. This restraint reflects a desire to manage the conflict and avoid pushing the region into uncontrolled warfare. However, with every day that Haifa endures rocket fire, with every disrupted trade route, and with every incident like the recent drone attack on the Benjamin barracks, the tension inches closer to the breaking point. The situation demands careful diplomacy, strategic patience, and perhaps most importantly, a willingness by all parties to consider off-ramps before it's too late. But as Crooke's insights make clear, the path forward is fraught with risk. The stakes have never been higher, and the margin for error is shrinking. Whether restraint will continue or the region will plunge into a wider conflict is uncertain, but one thing is clear. The decisions made in the coming weeks will shape the Middle East for years, if not decades, to come. According to Alastair Crooke, we're in a new phase, and in this phase, there's still a desire among members of the resistance not to let things get out of control. We still see that Hezbollah is not using its very accurate long-range and medium-range missiles. They're sticking to rockets, drones, and things of that nature. Iran has not directly targeted Israel's infrastructure, though that could be the next step. The Houthis have said they'll escalate the war by taking firmer actions, widening the level of interception, and intervening to prevent vessels from moving toward Israel. They may even work to block the land corridor running from the UAE to Israel by truck. The port of Aqaba has already had to file for bankruptcy as business has dried up. And this recent drone attack on the Binyamin barracks, south of Haifa, has highlighted the daily bombardment Haifa faces, with 100 to 200 missiles landing each day from Hezbollah in Lebanon. Thanks for watching.